Hey, welcome to the final days of 2023 or 2024, depending when this comes out. And come on, it's 2024 when you're watching this. It's not really a secret at this point. Extremely sorry about the disappearance after the Spider-Man video. My life immediately after that got extremely busy, as in I got a job and that takes up a lot of my time. So I figured I'd just do this as a hobby, I suppose, even though if you think about it, it was already one because the whole 2022-2023 tenure was all before I woke up at 4 a.m. 5 days out of the week. Besides my personal life, when it comes to toys, I'm excited to share my enjoyment of many new and old toys with you in the video format. Some you can clearly see in the background. Anyways, let's get to the much awaited video, not only to me or the main audience, but to the one person who requested this video. My great friend Nate, otherwise known as Kalehuamakanoe on Twitch. So I'll leave a link in the description below to his Twitch channel. Yep. So, let's get into it. I just have one question for you though. When you think of important Transformers characters, who comes to mind first? Optimus Prime? Megatron? Bumblebee? Soundwave? Basically what I'm saying is that the answer is infinite with the wide variety of characters we've been given for over 40 years, but my answer always goes to one character in particular. That is a fundamental part of the Autobots, and who might that be? Of course, I'm talking about fucking Ironhide! The weapons specialist made such an impact on me at the age of 5 that I could say that his death in Dark of the Moon is the second piece of childhood trauma I can think of. It really says something because seeing Bone Crusher get a sword shoved in his face, or seeing Grindor's head get split in half, or seeing Optimus get graphically stabbed in the chest, or seeing the Fallen's chest be punched right through and seeing his corpse fall, or seeing Megatron's head get yanked off by a one-armed Optimus would get to me, but seeing Ironhide rust to pieces in front of my 9-year-old eye stuck with me all the way into my early adult life. Transformers Studio Series 14 Ironhide came to collectors, fans, children, everybody in the third wave of Voyagers for the 2018 portion of Studio Series. He was also recently reissued through the 15th anniversary box set of all the first movie Autobots in 2022. I didn't get it because I bought mine in El Centro in 2018. However, while this toy is a solidly good choice for its own standalone video, why not strike the iron? Well, it's hot by putting 2 eggs in one basket with another Ironhide that shares a bit of DNA with the Studio Series figure. Anywho, Transformers Hunt for the Decepticons was a continuation of the Revenge of the Fallen toy line and is probably the best thing Hasbro has ever done with Transformers, and it couldn't be done today. It's part of what I dub the golden age of Transformers being a powerhouse in terms of pop culture, starting in 2007 and ending around 2012. I know, before you comment, I know we are in another golden age currently with Legacy and Studio Series where the figure selection is much more varied and the engineering is the best it's ever been. But let's face it, Transformers isn't as big as it used to be back then. Deluxe Ironhide came into my life because at one point I had the Revenge of the Fallen Voyager and it either broke or I lost it, or I wanted a more accurately colored Ironhide. I honestly don't remember because it was so long ago, but this toy became my main Ironhide until the Studio Series figure. Very similar story to Jolt, I now realize. This figure is still amazing after all these years and still has the overall feeling of the movie bot. It honestly never bothered me that he was smaller than everyone else, but it kind of makes me wonder what scale nuts think when I show an image like this. I do find it funny how jarring the scale can be, and you can only get a small joy like that with old toys. The color scheme is definitely a lot closer to the films compared to the Revenge of the Fallen Voyager, but it's still a bit off with the addition of brown and bluish silver, but it works in the small bubble that is this figure. I've grown to not really care as much about accuracy because some of the funnest toys are the least accurate ones, but don't get me wrong, I do appreciate it when a figure is accurate to its source material. The paint is pretty neat too, and surprising that it's mostly stayed intact since 2010. Like, you can tell the paint is worn off in some places, but it's almost as if I barely opened it a few minutes ago. Onto some protection, the accessories for this figure is the drone turret thingy from the Revenge of the Fallen video game. But if it isn't obvious, I lost it, but luckily the more iconic of the two cannons is built into his right forearm. Yeah, an argument could be made that it's too small, but once you know why it is, you'll understand the genius of it. The head sculpt is interesting too because I'm pretty sure this head is based off concept art for a battle mask which he never had in the movies, but I don't mind and it does sound very familiar. I'll be honest, I never noticed as a kid, and even as I actively acknowledge it now, I'm not losing sleep over a piece of plastic. Hell, I spilled my guts about how I love and prefer Jolt's toy head, so what does that tell you? Also, he has one of my favorite Transformers design philosophies of light piping. I don't care if you absolutely hate it and think that it makes it seem like the character is dead. I think that when you do utilize the feature, it adds on to the figure, giving it a more larger-than-life feeling. We really need light piping back in the forefront, but too fucking bad negativity is all that surrounds the idea. The sculpting is very on par with this era where it's not very in-depth details, but it's also not just simple shapes. It's a nostalgic look and feel because of how many figures I had/have, so it's nice to see every now and then. So we're going to talk about the articulation for the deluxe Ironhide, so well, let's do it. So the head is on a ball joint. You can look all the way up, you can look kind of down, he just looks disappointed. And you could obviously do tilt, kind of, if I could actually do it, there you go, you can side to side, kind of. The arm's on a ball joint, so like, you could literally do anything, 360, bicep swivel, 90-degree elbows, and wrist swivel. See, look at that. And now the cat is out of the bag. Mine is broken. So what happened was that I was gonna sell this guy initially. Well, after having this guy for like a few years. I guess, was it last year? I don't even remember. It might have been, no, it must 2022 that I was gonna sell this guy. So I was transforming him into a truck, and then he broke in half. So I guess fate decided that he was gonna stay with me after all. So yeah, that's pretty neat. He still transforms just fine, so I don't really care. Also, there's a hinge right here, so you can do backwards. It's more so a transformation, of course it is. The leg goes that far forward, goes that far back, which isn't, oh, a little bit, it's not really that crazy. And then the leg goes that far out. Look at that, that's crazy. And we got a thigh swivel. It's very limited because of this. Actually, no, it's because of how it's constructed. Because, oh yeah, you can. It is, but it's very limited because of the kibble. So, yeah, he's already coming apart again. I thought about buying a brand new one of this guy, just to have one that's not broken, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. The knee folds in pretty deeply. See, it's a little bit teensy, a bit more than a 90, but it's about it's more so 90. The foot goes forward, it goes. It doesn't go back because of the kibble, and look at that. He's got ankle tilts, both words, outwards, inwards. It's pretty neat. And yeah, that's pretty much it. He's got old articulation where it wasn't really a focus, but of course it's there. So yeah, it's pretty neat. So nothing like your little brother asking your dog if your dog is hungry. So yeah, that's the articulation. Talking about this figure overall, and I still have a lot of love for this toy as he was the main Ironhide for over a decade. Something I used to do and continue to do is give Ironhide the blaster of the shitty Classics Optimus and the original War for Cybertron Optimus Deluxes to mimic the heavy iron ability from the Dark of the Moon game. But as the years have gone by, mostly just earlier this year, last year, I don't remember, I sold my War for Cybertron Deluxe Optimus, so all that's left is the shitty Classics blaster. But that works just fine because at the beginning of that mission, you only have one, not two. Alright, so now let's transform Ironhide into a truck for the first time in this video. So let's do that. So first off, since mine is broken, we gotta split him in half. And we're gonna start with the bottom half first because it's easier. You know, him being split in half is probably the best thing that's ever happened to him because it makes transforming him less of a fiddly mess, because it was kind of fiddly a little bit. Not like a lot, but like definitely quite a bit. What the fuck was that? It just came off the light. Oh, it's a fly. So yeah, you do that with the legs. I didn't even explain anything. Well, you know what? Maybe the transformations, maybe I shouldn't explain how to do them. Only go over parts that I think are interesting. So like, that was pretty standard fare for the truck. So let's do the top half. So turn the kilo around. And then you just explode his whole chest. Sound familiar? Does it look familiar too? Put in the little stomach cavity, then use the slider joint, push this in, and then obviously the hinge already did it by itself, and then you just arrange it according to that properly, hinge that in, or I guess push it in, hinge, arrange the arms, and this will fold into itself on its own. So then you do this, look at that. Make sure you fold these out, otherwise it won't connect. So now we got a... This is Frankie from the future interjecting the transformation of this figure to tell you about something I forgot to film, and that's the genius thing for this figure. So here it is. That's why he's an half. Just right before the transformation was completed. So we got to go to the arm section. So you open this up. So if you've been watching the video up to this point, you've noticed that there's a big open cavity right here. So basically what goes in here is that drone thingy that I don't have would go in here. And you could store it in vehicle mode when you're transforming it. So you're probably wondering, with very little space there is, because the cannon takes a good chunk of it, how does it fit in there? And this is where the genius part comes in. It's so simple, but it's amazing. Basically, you go to the other cannon and you fold it open, and then when you have the thing in here, 'cause it's a big rectangle, then you would close it, and then it would fit easily right in there. But since I don't have it, can't quite show that. So yeah, that's basically it. That's the genius thing. It's literally something so small, but it's a genius move. In my opinion. You could disagree, you could agree, I don't really care. That's just my opinion. Also, during the production of this video, specifically in the original version of the script, I mentioned I only had 3 Ironhides. Well, I got a 4th one during the production of this video, so good thing I didn't run with that original script, because it would have been wrong and out of date. Even though he's never mentioned in this video, except for this part only. That's an interjection. Whatever. At least you see him now. He'll probably get a video in the future. Line this all up. This is where it would be the most fiddly right now, because it would normally be like this. It'd be something like this if he was still in one piece. I don't know, I haven't had this guy in one piece for like almost, I guess now I could say 2 years, because it's 2024 when I'm filming this. But you put it together and you got Ironhide as a truck, and voila, that's pretty much it. So yeah. As for the truck mode, I'll get into more specifics later in the video, but know that I appreciate the small Autobot logo on the front windshield. However, as fun and enjoyment-filled Hunt for the Decepticons Ironhide is, I eventually had to move on to another movie Ironhide to be the main Ironhide, and began questioning in 2017 because my friend Nate and I used to do this Transformers story in freshman year of high school, and I figured Ironhide would be a tall bot, and that the deluxe was starting to sound less appealing to me, and I considered getting the Dark of the Moon Voyager, but 2018 came and went, and by far this is the best Ironhide we've ever got. Even seemingly better than the Masterpiece. So here he is, now, officially, and getting the obvious out of the way, the robot mode is the same shape-wise, but where we differ is in size and color choices and plastics, because while the Hunt for the Decepticons is that brown and bluish silver, this Ironhide is pure black all around and draws to the talk about the gray trunk bumper on his abdomen. And I'm well aware a lot of people weren't too fond of this, but after 6 years, who gives a shit? Talking about the paint, well, lack thereof, are little blemishes of silver, orange, and red. That's pretty much it. The sculpted black does all the work, and the sculpting is by far the star of the show, even for a figure from the first year of the line that's still as masterful as figures like SS90 Galvatron. Really goes to show the improvements in sculpting for these movie bots over the years. The head sculpt this time around is a 1-to-1 recreation from his 3 film and 1 ride appearances. The previously mentioned silver paint and sculpt work simultaneously together to give us a pretty great head sculpt. What's funny to me is that something I noticed on this figure, and only when I got this figure, that I never noticed before, was that Ironhide's head is actually asymmetrical, and it's always been that way since the first movie. I guess that's what happens when the deluxe is your main Ironhide and his head is symmetrical. Alright, the articulation for the main star of the show. I'm pretty sure his head's on a ball joint because it has like the whole, whenever you have a figure has like a ball joint, like right there, like a little vent, little thing. Like I guess if you like if his like head ends up in your throat or something, you can breathe or whatever. But he can't look up. He can just make his head move a little down a little bit. But he's got a little tilt. Of course, you gotta have him look left to right. The arms. Now this is interesting how they're articulated. You know, I'm gonna take off the cannons. Just make this a little easier. So the arms have like a butterfly joint, which is crazy. The arm goes that far forward because of the kibble, and back like that. A lot more back, also because of the kibble. The arm goes out. He's got an elbow swivel, and then 90 degrees at the elbow. And he's got a wrist swivel, but it doesn't go 360, it only goes one way and then the other. He's got no waist swivel because of how he transforms. The leg goes that far forward, that far back. I think that's a lot more than the deluxe, so that's pretty neat. Just like the deluxe, the leg goes out all the way. He's got a thigh swivel, goes 360, no intrusions. The knee goes at 90, it's a 90. So I guess about the same level as the deluxe, and then this is where you get a little bit of a downgrade, but I don't really mind. Where his feet only go back and forth. Well, they can't go back, but they can go forward. And then no ankle tilt. And this is where other Transformer reviewers that may or may not get toys in not so legal fashion, I won't be naming names, because I noticed that kind of makes a little criticism. I guess, I don't know what they'd be criticisms, complaints about when things don't have ankle tilts, but like, you gotta think how it transforms. Would it have worked? Obviously it would have worked because there's an upgrade kit for this guy where the bumper problem is fixed, and then you get new feet, so he has ankle tilts. But I would only go for it honestly just for the Dark of the Moon guns, and that's pretty much it, because this guy on his own is pretty good. So I don't know, he's fine the way he is. Articulation is fine. It doesn't need to be crazy spectacular. This is not Spider-Man we're dealing with here. It's Ironhide. And last I checked, Ironhide's not doing crazy shit in the sky. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the articulation for Ironhide. Again. Also, I just might as well point it out because there's like no other point in the script where I ever pointed out where like half of the 5mm half of the 5mm port like kind of broke off, because this whole forearm is made out of clear plastic. So I want to know why it's only happened to this side and how the fuck that it still works, but it's probably because it like latches on here. That's probably why it still works, and why it hasn't happened to this side. And there's no doubt that it's gonna happen to this side as well. It just hasn't happened yet for some reason. So I don't know what else to say, so let's move on. Ironhide's accessories are his 2 iconic arm cannons that at this point have become synonymous with him, that other interpretations adopted the arm cannons as well, and let's face it, it's only because Hasbro wanted to have brand synergy since the movies made them a shit ton of money. Also, the cannons are separate pieces, and they are big blocks of plastic, so it kind of makes sense as to why. The paint on them too is pretty nice, especially on the left arm one where it looks like it's sizzled after a blast, but overall it's very nice. It's very subtle kind of also, but it's only where it needs to be, so I guess massive props to that. This part's unscripted, can you tell? Oh look, Ironhide showing us his cannons. Perfect. But gotta put them away because you gotta transform you into a truck. So put those together for now, just so that they don't get lost. Even though they're not gonna get lost, look how big chunks of plastic they are. There's no way they're gonna get lost being separated, but I just like to put them together. So let's transform Ironhide. And something I just thought of is that they could totally re-release this guy with like 2 handheld guns and just name it like Dark of the Moon Ironhide. Well, obviously like have him so that you can put him on his back or something. They could easily do that. Just don't include these, just give him the guns and bada bing bada boom, you got Dark of the Moon Ironhide. But I don't know, there's just Studio Series is kind of weird when it comes to releases, because especially repaints, because they could easily do, what's his name, Demolisher, but they haven't for some reason. Or they could do Payload from Long Haul, or who else? Well, they haven't done the toy only colors like Night Watch Optimus or Night Op or Stealth Ops. I don't remember, the black and yellow Bumblebee instead of the yellow and black. Or even Ironhide with like the other color schemes he had in the toys, like the blue, or a G1 color scheme for all there is. What other colors did Ironhide have? Like gray, an all gray truck, just like the Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Voyager. Like, perfect. So this is probably the most interesting part I could point out about the transformations, that I like to do this where, well, first you gotta click these, where you get like the top half of the truck and then you like slide these in first, and then you put this in, and then this whole thing will accordion itself like that, and then obviously you'll line it up and then put that in, fix it up a little, and then you got Ironhide transformed as a truck. And now we can bring back the weapons for weapon storage, and you can split them off. Then what I like to do is I put them in the order that they are in robot mode. So I'll put the big one over here, and then I'll put this one over here, so that the little black panels on the cannons are like touching. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So Studio Series Ironhide as a truck, and I do like how this, I just like how this is arranged, because it's like kind of masterpiece like a little bit. Might as well point it out right now, but the bottoms of the truck are very similar, like not counting up down here, like how they end up like on the upper half is quite similar, which is quite interesting. I won't say anything about the bottom half because that happens later in this video. Just being a little self-referential, what is it? Self-aware? Let's move on to the next section of the video. Ironhide's truck mode is by far the most American thing I've ever owned. I'm not patriotic in the slightest, but this is probably the only time I'll ever be, because bigotry seems to continue to reign supreme in this country. The Studio Series truck mode is a direct shrinkage of the actual real-life truck with the actual details like the 4x4 tachographs on the back sides of the truck, all the way to the sculpting of the GMC logo. Ironhide here also transforms into a GMC top kick. The paint also loops back for the truck mode, but stands out a bit more with the silver surrounding the grille and on the smokestacks, or the orange lights on the top of the truck. The overall sculpt is pretty smooth as vehicles tend to be, but I really love this wonderfully sculpted Autobot logo on the back of the truck. Of course, the Deluxe is the same truck minus the back Autobot logo. Putting the two together to get over their differences resides in the beginning of the truck bed, where the Studio Series 1 is an open gap while the Deluxe has hinges in its place, and of course, it's due to the differences in the transformation schemes. Another major difference is the clear plastic color, where it's a lush dark tint on the Studio Series figure and a deep ocean blue for the Deluxe. However, they shine better together because if you've noticed, the feet for both figures end up in the same place and even the back wheels do the same thing in robot mode. Plus, having multiple sizes of one character is fun, and I say that after spending so many years having so many different sized bumblebees. And now, Bone Crushers. As a final note for the truck mode, I also love that his rough and tumble attitude exudes from the truck without ever having to see the robot mode. And as for other Ironhides, I also love that the Studio Series Ironhide and 86 Ironhide both have their heads in essentially the exact same place. It's kind of why I enjoy collecting Transformers as a whole, whether it's the video game stuff, or the cartoon stuff, or the Legacy War for Cybertron stuff, or the movie stuff. And it's small connections like this that really encapsulates Transformers as one big cohesive franchise. And he fell. It doesn't matter that Transformers isn't as huge as it once was in 2007 to 2012 because all of this will continue to be huge for all of us. There's nothing like putting on a long, in-depth video about any aspect of Transformers and seeing others' perspectives on the franchise. Of course, there won't always be people who all agree with, but it's definitely something to think about. Another, of course, but there's also those fans, you might know what I'm talking about, that only talk about Transformers because, oh no, they won't go find my Transformers. And at that rate, I'm not fucking listening to you. The woker, the better, I suppose. Well, we've reached the end of the video, and I'd say fucking finally! This was supposed to come out a week after the Spider-Man video, which was in October, I think. It's been so long that I forgot. But, oh well, there's nothing I can do about it now. And I have some news also, because I'm going to be less frequent in 2024 when it comes to uploads and only pop out a video whenever I can. My job actually really does take up a lot of my time, so my apologies for getting this video out in 2024 instead of before Thanksgiving or before Christmas or before New Year's. So, I guess better late than never. Anyways, thank you for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this video. I really appreciate all of those who have stuck with me. It doesn't really matter when you jumped on the Offhand reviews train, but seriously, thank you. So, I'll see you in 2025.